Welcome to Inside Politics. I am Inyobong Iwok. 25 years after returning to democracy in 1999, there are debates if the country is on the right path. Many Nigerians believe that their expectations have not been met. Experts say Nigeria is not currently practicing true democracy due to entrenched corrupt political class, its dwindling electoral participation, shrinking civil liberty, and weak democratic institutions. Over the last decade, a weakening economy and rising insecurity threaten the nation's democratic journey, and has plugged more Nigerians into poverty. The country is now the second poverty capital of the world after India. But is there any hope ahead? And what can be done? Today on Inside Politics, we'll be discussing the state of Nigerian democracy. I'm being joined by Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. He was the 2023 governorship candidate of the Labour Party. Good afternoon and welcome to
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
the program. 25 years after democracy in Nigeria, where are we? Do you believe you're on the right path?
No, I don't believe that Nigeria is on the right path, especially when you think about what happened, I think about 2 days ago when the DSS and armed forces stormed the State Assembly in Lagos State. And that is extremely symbolic because if you understand Nigerian history, you realize how important the assembly and the democratic foundation of Lagos actually set the grounds for the formation of Nigeria, right? And even to the point of getting an independent Nigeria. All those debates, all those battles were fought in Lagos State. So Lagos State has always practiced a rather sophisticated level of politics. And politics is being able to agree and disagree with your colleagues and your constituent representatives or for your representatives without having to resort to violence and intimidation. And you see from 2023 elections down to what happened 2 days ago, we're starting to lay a foundation to return to an uncivilized state of being where lawlessness is the order of the day. And that must be groundly resisted. Aside that, if you look at the economics of what Nigeria has become, I tell people all the time that my grandfather's time, the husband and wife did not need to work.
Yes.
It was okay for one person to work, and you could have a very good life with just one person working and not going to work and stealing, actually having an honest job and doing things you could afford to live a very good life. That's not the case in Nigeria today. Somebody that's work, I mean, think about what the minimum wage is. They're talking about 85,000 or 80,000 in Nigeria, in Lagos, sorry, and it's something that we are clapping for. But that person is not going to say ₦1,000,000 in an entire year. Now think about their transport costs. Think about their feeding costs. Think about having to pay for school fees, for health costs. And that is the lot of majority of Nigerians. And then you look at people that might not have cash money, but typically would have farmland where they could farm and at least eat properly. That has also been taken away by bandits and the lack of security
Yes.
across the country.
Yes.
So even people that have lands that typically would farm and eat from their land, even though they now have a lot of cash, they cannot do that anymore.
Let's go back to before we come back to the poverty rate in the country. Let's go back to what happened at Lagos House of Assembly on Monday. Are you surprised that despite the fact that the APC have not been able to, this crisis have been brewing over the last 1 month, more than a month now, that the APC have not been able to call the actors together and find a way to settle the issue amicably between Obasa and...
I think the way the APC has ruled Lagos State has been one of intimidation and suppression, even among themselves, right? There is a godfather that calls all the shots and says what is supposed to be and what will happen, and anybody that falls out of line is pushed aside or intimidated or suppressed, right? And there's only so long you can do that for. It's like when you have your boot on somebody's neck. A point will come where they will start to push it
push back.
off. They will tell you that we are not children. You are president. Focus on Nigeria. We can handle things. We are supposed to be representing a constituency. We are supposed to be representing a group of people, not just the whims and caprices of one man, right? And that's what you're seeing pushback. You're also seeing the pushback of indigenous Lagosians saying that they want more
Say,
more say in the control and to be at the helm of their affairs. For too long, and it's very unfair because we have our Yoruba brothers and sisters all can aspire to leadership positions in their states, but that's not the same thing for Lagosians. And Lagos has been cosmopolitan for a very long time, for a very long time. And that's why things like this would happen. But when it gets to a point where indigenous Lagosians cannot really have control, be at the helm of affairs, then they have to start pushing back. And that's what you have been seeing. Even among Tinubu's GAC, indigenous Lagosians are having their own meetings and saying, we need to be at the helm of affairs because we cannot go to Ogun State and be at the helm of affairs there. We cannot go to Oshun, Iragbiji, and even be a local government chairman with a name like Pedro or Anima Sharon or Cardoso. You cannot go to any of those states and become anything, even a local government chairman,
chairman.
right? So that's what the pushback you're also seeing. And then there's also a pushback of, there are several. There's gender balancing as well. For the first time, we have a
Female speaker.
in not just in a major position that is Lagosian, but even just the gender aspect of it. We had men just back to back as speakers. We have a woman now, and that's okay. And I also acknowledge the fact that you have a state assembly that is being able to stand behind somebody despite all the force and intimidation, and that means that person, there must be truly something special about that person as well. So I feel that it's in the interest of the people of Lagos to have representation that are not rubber stamps, that are not just the toys of one godfather or one puppet master that's pulling strings. It's more important that they are there to represent their constituents and are as independent as they can possibly be.
So this indicates that there's a crack in probably in the dynasty of Tinubu, because we have seen a pushback from the lawmakers. We say that this is the person we want as the speaker. We've seen intrigue that happened over the last few weeks. Some people wanted, some groups or some individuals wanting to bring back the former speaker. So maybe they give him a soft land. Some said they want to give him a soft landing. But the lawmakers themselves have said this is the person we want.
I want to see a
and of course, despite this, the so-called JC have not been able to settle the issue.
I want to see a
Are you seeing
situation
a crack
where the
or
17
division
billion
within the-
allegation to build a gate is answered. All these things have come up. Different allegations of huge amounts of money being looted, and nobody's talking about it. The FCC is not investigating it, right? We're seeing a situation where the Supreme Court said that Obasa is not a lawyer, but he has been parading himself as a lawyer.
As a lawyer.
That is fraud. Nobody's being held to account for that. And we're talking about a Tinubu dynasty. Listen, Lagos, indigenous of Lagos, Lagosians, people that live in Lagos, people that reside in Lagos, have been standing their ground to vote for parties that are not legal, that are not the APC. But every election, there's some kind of magic, violence, intimidation, suppression, and all sorts. We barely have free and fair elections in Lagos State. So when we talk about a Tinubu dynasty, Lagos is bigger than Tinubu, right? So when we talk, by what basis are we even talking about a Tinubu dynasty? If not for a situation where our morals and values have been so reduced and corrupted, where so many people can just be bought over and do things that are not in the interest of the people. I mean, where is Tinubu's grandfather buried in Lagos that we're talking about the Tinubu dynasty? Do you understand? It's just, again, it goes back to what you talked about the first time, where you talk about Nigeria, the formation of it. When you think about leaders like Macaulay, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Saldana, Zeke, there was so much more substance to their leadership. It was not just personal interest and accumulating money. not just accumulation, primitive accumulation of money. It was not just that. There was ideology, there was thinking, there was something that's bigger than just themselves.
So
And that's what is
what you are saying
lacking.
in essence is that there was no reason, because some of these allegations have been leveled against the former speaker were there even before the 2020 elections. What you are saying in essence is that there was no justification for the party to have given him, allow him to become the speaker again.
It's the same
It's the
party that is
ninth assembly.
that is the same party that's alleging, right? This is not opposition. It's not even opposition work.
Yes.
The
Yes.
same party is alleging because those members of the assembly have experienced this man for over 15 years, I believe. Right? He's been in state assembly for over 15
yes,
years.
he's been
I
there.
believe he's been speaker for almost 10 years now.
Yes, it's in
Right?
203.
Exactly. So they are in the best position to pass a judgment on him, because normally if there's opposition in the state assembly, maybe we have one person, usually from Ahmad of him. Even the second one that we got with Labour Party, that one was removed to the courts. So they have been dominating state assembly, and they are in the best position to pass judgment on the speaker, and they have. And even all this fight and everything, you see, the assembly is a different kind of organization. If Obasa sits down, he will not be able to sit down for up to 10 minutes. They can again vote him out, even if he goes to court. If he sits down, because the resistance and the resilience that they've shown with the DSS invading the state assembly.
We saw your statement. We saw your statement on Monday.
Yes, if they stand again like that together and he comes in there, they'll vote him out again. So what will he do that then? Is it the army they will send to the state assembly?
So let's look at the broader issues that concern democracy in Nigeria. 38.9% Nigerians are below the poverty line. 87 million Nigerians living below the poverty line. The second highest poor people in the world, behind India.
That's behind India, because I was looking when you said
of course,
that.
Nigeria was number one
Number
before.
one.
India has overtaken Nigeria.
Who is giving that number?
Directly from the World Bank.
From the World Bank?
It's everywhere. Yeah,
Okay,
it's everywhere.
okay, that's very
Nigeria is
interesting.
now second.
Okay.
So, what does this say about the state of democracy and governance in Nigeria from 1999 to where we are? We've seen successive government from the Obasanjo administration, the Yar'Adua, the Jonathan, the Buhari, and now we have the Nigerians. Despite reforms of the present administration, despite the economic policy of the last administration, more Nigerians seem to be falling to the poverty line. What does this tell about governance in Nigeria?
It says a lot about the quality of leaders that we have. And I'm not just talking about president and governor. I'm talking about the quality of people that you're electing to your local government, as your councillors, as your assembly members. Because if the system works, it should be delivering development and progress. Because there are systems that are put in place to check the executive. You have a system in place also to check the assembly. If good people are in these positions and the system works, Nigerians will benefit from positive dividends of democracy. Unfortunately, we have not taken our politics serious enough, and I mean this as citizens. The 2023 election was a watershed moment. More people participated, more people got involved. But this Rome is not built in a day. Every country that people are running to, crossing deserts, water, going to stand in queues for visa to go to, they all had their moments where the people persistently strived to ensure that they have quality leadership. And then when they build this new democratic norms, because what are the norms of our politics in Nigeria? The norm is, he's a big man. You don't care how he became a big man. You don't care how many people he suppressed, stole from, lives that were damaged or not damaged. You don't care. He's just a big man. Okay, he's a good politician. What does that mean? He's cunning. He has admirals. He has thugs. He can deploy violence. That's what it means to be a politician today in Nigeria. So why are you surprised about the outcome of that? Is that how you'd have defined a Herbert Macaulay or a Henry Carr or an Awolowo?
So what you are saying in essence is that there's something basically fundamentally something wrong with the way we play politics in Nigeria.
No, it's not about the way we play politics. The characters that have come to dominate politics after the military administration are not people that have a grand vision for the people. When you look at Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he had a grand vision for the Western region and for even Nigeria as a whole. I call those set of people philosopher kings. It was not just about themselves. We have now transitioned to a situation where we just have kings that want to rule, not lead. Where the ruler sits down in his palace and is enjoying the benefits, the largesse of the country, while his people are suffering. The leader is out in front with his people. I was reading on my way here where when they wanted to supply electricity in Lagos, the Oba, I think it was Oba Oyekon, they said they will supply light to his house first, while other places will be in darkness. I'm not 100% sure about the names, but this actually happened. He said, no, until you supply to the city, I'll be in darkness with them. That is leadership. You are in front. When you know that the country is bankrupt, you are not buying jets. You are not buying new luxury cars, of which you already have most of those cars. You are leading from the front. And that's where we need to get to.
So the crop of opposition we have now, they are not getting their politics right, or that they're wrong. They don't have the right people in the right place.
We need leaders that have a value system that puts Nigerians first. We need leaders that are not going there, because you see, this is the catch-22 situation. A leader wants to have power for the sake of having power. So he must accumulate a certain amount of money, because he's not going to sell ideas or a vision to you. He's just going to buy you, right? Because if you want to go into work, you're selling a vision, you're selling ideas. If you want to go into steal, you're buying the person, because it's also a reflection of your level of desperation. Now, when you've gotten there by buying your way in, your first thing is to accumulate as much money as you can so you can buy them again in the next 4 years. Because it's not your work that will speak for you. That's why you see, like for instance, in Lagos State, how is it that you have a governor that has been governor for 4 years, does not attend any debate? If you have done work, you attend debate because you'll be excited to show off and talk about what you've done. Talk about how you've made the lives of people better. Because all the other people on that stand have not had that opportunity. So you're in a better position. It's like if I made this table and I'm competing for making tables to an audience.
You should be happy to show it to you.
I should be happy to show my table, because all the other people cannot show that they made the table.
Let me ask this: where did we get it wrong? Because what we saw, the kind of leader we saw,
We got it wrong.
And the Third Republic, before the caution of the military.
So the military did not help matters, because there were so many elections that were annulled.
In 1999, a lot of when the military left power, some of these people that formerly were in the military, they decided to go into politics. Was it that the wrong people? The wrong people went into politics.
There were several attempts at having an election.
Yes.
There were several people that you would describe as good people that showed interest the first time. When it was annulled, they showed interest again. When it came back in, it will be annulled again, so they did not bother. So that crop of people that took that chance set the foundation of what we're experiencing today. Now, in setting that foundation,
and they seem to still hold the system.
They hold the system, but we also have to point out the fact that Nigerians, we are a very resilient people. Like Fela used to say, we were suffering and smiling, right? This level of incompetence and suffering and hardship, if a leader or set of leaders try this in a country like France, the country will be burning down, right? But we are resilient. And unfortunately, politicians have taken that for granted, because they feel they can get away with anything. People will complain, they'll get back to life, they'll continue suffering, they'll continue smiling. So Nigerians need to take this thing. I know we started taking it seriously. We need to take it a lot more serious. We need to vote and stay there. When we stay there, we follow it all the way to coalition center. We are there because your life, these things determine your life.
People have also said, some politicians, some elder statesmen have said, if we look at the quality of people that we have in public office, they are not got to be there. But some people have also said it's about why governance, people in public office are not delivering because of the structure of the country, that we need to go back to the regional government. I spoke with Wale Oshun. He's a leader of Afenifere Renewal. You know him very well, Wale Oshun. He told me last week or two. He said one thing I know is that Nigeria, as presently constituted, can only survive when the constitution is revoked. Otherwise, we are postponing the doomsday. When the constitution is revoked, it will solve a lot of things. Do you agree
I
with what
think
you say?
I think that we
Structuring
practice
constitution.
I think we practice a quasi level of federalism. So even what we have on paper, we are not doing it as efficiently as we should be doing it. States, because I think when somebody, it's just like how the president came in and he reverted to the old national anthem. There's this idea with Nigerians, very older Nigerians, that the way forward is going back, right? Because they've experienced part of regionalism, but they don't realize that they won't also acknowledge that in that regionalism, that's how the Civil War came about.
Yeah.
With Akintola and Chief Obafemi
Yes. The
Awolowo.
crisis that
The
ensued.
crisis that ensued that then brought us to where we are, right? So it's not always just about looking back. It's also looking forward. People are also agitating to have more states. People want power to be as close to them as possible. Right now, we have a situation where people have as many states as they have their ethnic realities, right? So are those who are going to now give up that independence and go back to be under a region? For me, I believe that if our states work the way they were supposed to, if our states were allowed to generate their own power, we need to take a lot more things off the executive
That's
list.
practicing true federalism.
Yes, decentralize and reduce the power of the federal. Let's have our own capacity to have our security. Yes, we can have regional security structures, right? We can have regional security structures, but the state should be empowered to be able to maximize the benefit for its people. I don't want a situation where the state now is going to be looking to another place outside to determine the curriculum in this state. No, that's why we elect our governor, we take him seriously. We know that his vision for this state, he is accountable to us. He's not accountable to anybody else. So I want to see a situation where the state is given so much more capacity and power
Just like what
to
we have
secure, to generate power, to generate wealth.
Just like what we have in the US, where we copy the present constitution.
Exactly. So, like I said, it's a quasi-federalism, right? Why should a state not be able to generate power? Why should a state not be able to build its own ports? Why? There can be partnerships, but they should not be held back. That's why you have a lot of governors that are just coming there with just the idea of how they'll collect money from Abuja, how they'll share fact. You don't have a lot of visionary governors that are looking at the state where they come from. How can we create value from this state? Right? I mean, there are one or two you start to see, but it's not the general, it's not the typical description.
We say we are practicing the American democracy. We're not practicing the true federalism just like it's been practiced in America.
No, we're not.
Just doing a surface.
It's very surface. We pick and choose. So, so you copy the presidential entourage of the American president, but you don't copy the security independence for the state. I mean, it's just picking and choosing what is convenient.
Some have said it's the constitution. We need to rework the constitution. We need to that.
Well, I'm saying the constitution that we have. Yes, I mean there was a confab, right? And there were a lot of suggestions that were made. People could look at that and say, okay, let us implement some of those things. And that's fine. But even before we get it, let us implement the constitution we have, right? And let it be workable. Let it truly benefit the people. Let us be able to hold people to account. Let there be justice in a timely fashion. If we have leaders that are looting us right, let us set examples with them. By the time you set examples with 5, 10 governors that have stolen money, start taking former presidents to court. Look at China. How did China get to where it is? If you are guilty of corruption, you're sentenced to death. By the time you've done that a couple of times, people will know that, you know what, let's manage our affairs better. All
right. As you're watching Inside Politics, I've still been speaking with Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. It was a Labour Party governorship candidate in Lagos State in 2020 general election. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll get his view about electoral reforms. 2027 is around the corner.
This is the Business Day television broadcast.
So watching Inside Politics, I'm in your work. I've been speaking with Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, a governorship candidate for the Labour Party in the 2023 general election here in Lagos State. We're looking at the state of democracy in Nigeria. So, what was the experience like as a candidate in 2023 for you? What will you do differently next
well,
time?
the positive thing for me, which was extremely remarkable, was to see Nigerians embrace hope. Nigerians believe that their country can be better. Nigerians mobilize without being mobilized, because prior to this, there's been the normalization of the monetization of politics.
Yeah.
So for anything to happen, you must be sharing money, you must be buying votes. At least in Lagos, that was not the case. There are a lot of people that just came out to vote, were very resilient. You had a lady that was stabbed in her eye but still came out to vote. You know, the downside of it was the disgraceful behavior of the APC in relation to how they use violence to intimidate people. Um, the the level of it's one thing to talk and try to create problems with your words, nothing to use that and use associated with violence to intimidate people all across the state. So that was extremely disappointing, and it really set Lagos back in terms of our politics. It set us back significantly, which is why we must resist what has currently happened with the state assembly. But aside that, it was an experience that I treasure. I've learned a lot. A lot of loopholes that we're working to correct. Um, and just staying the course, being consistent, letting the people know that there's an alternative. Also, holding the government accountable as much as possible, and also making a difference in trying to tackle and solve problems that are low hanging fruit.
Finance was a big issue, as it's always been a big issue in the election in Nigeria over the last 25 years. How a lot of people believe that that probably worked against your party, or maybe because of the poverty rate in society, people tend to
I don't
they
agree.
want to be given money before they vote.
I don't
before they
agree.
exercise their franchise.
Like I said,
did you have any challenge dealing with?
No. Like I said, this experience was a different one. It was people were coming out to vote. Yes, there will be the person that will sell their votes in different. Nigeria is very diverse. Nigeria is made up of very diverse people in very diverse sets of circumstances. If a person has only known poverty, they cannot imagine life outside of it. I don't know if someone is living in a village that has hardly ever had light, and you tell them you give them light, okay, but they are not going to imagine that their village is going to turn to New York by a politician. So what's the level of their motivation to say no to 10,000 naira? But when you see people that have been exposed, educated, people that not just even only that, there are lots of people that just want a better life. They resonated with the messaging that came out, and they're tired of politicians that were just coming every 4 years to give them 5,000 naira and then make billions of them while they continue to remain in poverty. And they came out and participated in elections.
Looking at the controversy that trailed that general election, the issue of transmission of election results, the Supreme Court ruling that INEC has the right to.
As completely disgraceful.
Because
the political parties did not tell Mr. Yakubu how to set the parameters of INEC. It was him that came and said, we are going to transmit results. We are going to do this. He said, this is what we are going to do. Only to now find out that he does not have to stand by what he said he was going to do. I mean, so much money was spent on that election. So much funds were taken from the European Union, from America, from the federal government, only to now tell us that there was a bug, that they had to turn it off. So who is going to account for that failure? What's the point of spending that money when we could not get the value of that money? And this is the problem in Nigeria. People take money, they do not use it for what they are supposed to use it for, and they can still be walking around freely. There's no consequence. Accountability and consequence. It's more than just accountability. You cannot move forward if there is no consequence. This thing that they did in 2023, do you see any way that the INEC chairman will be motivated to do things differently the next time? He's gotten away with it. I'm sure there are some parties that is going to, they're clapping for him. So he's gotten away with it. So you can now imagine which politician now is going to believe anything he says about the next election. And that's the problem. When people don't believe in the state and the state apparatus and what the state is saying, when there's a lack of trust, then they start to take things into their own hands.
And as you heard towards 2007, there have been the calls for electoral reform. Even INEC have listed 172 provisions in which they want to put into the electoral law. Some of them will need National Assembly legislation. What is your take about calls for electoral reform?
We must have electoral reform.
The present administration.
We must have electoral reforms. Now, will we have electoral reform and they'll implement it? That I don't know. But it's a journey of 1,000 miles. Starts with one step, right? So we must push for electoral reform. There is no reason why a country that is in the financial situation that we are in, which is Nigeria, is having election on 2 separate days. The cost of that thing is enormous. The logistic cost, the cost to assemble the military, the police, the cost is a major, major cost. Why don't you just do that cost once? It's economies of scale. If the president or any responsible person was having a business, right, they will ensure that everything was done that day because they know it's cheaper. The cost of that bus that's transmitting those papers will pretty much be the same if you added 2 more ballot papers in it.
Yes.
And they're also talking about cargo with planes, moving things around. Why not just take that cost once, considering the suffering financial situation that we are in as a country? Why not be more efficient? So that's one. Having elections all done on one day. The second thing is they must make the transmission of votes mandatory.
And
then we must start to have a separate legal process, a separate court, a special court for electoral
offenses tribunal.
Right? And we must do it in such a way that the people can hold people accountable and take them to court. It should not only have to go to a party. If I was at a polling unit and this particular person committed a crime, I should be able to take that person to court.
And also been calls that.
And lastly, INEC should be the one that is defending the person they declare as the winner. I should not have to be with the burden of proof, go to INEC, begging INEC to collect information on the electoral result. No, you declare them. So you should come and defend. You should bring those results, right? Because the burden of proof on the person that's appealing is very, very tough. Look at the amount of days that you are required to make your case. Yes, I understand that there's a need to establish a new government and wrap up this whole process, but INEC already has all this information. So it should be more efficient for them to bring this information forward.
And there have been calls also that INEC, rather than candidates who go to court to challenge election, which that we need to expedite cases in court before candidates are sworn in.
Yes, that would be ideal.
What we have now is that we have 5 months for campaign.
Yeah.
What we see in this, and there's most of these positions they wait till like 1 month, even some 2 weeks before why don't we reduce it to like maybe 2 months, hold the presidential election much earlier, then we can have longer period for candidates to go to court and challenge election results, then before this final swearing takes place.
To be honest,
because we have 5 months now, most of the candidates don't campaign for 5 months. Look at what happened in the election, recent obstacle election. A lot of them they only campaign 2-3 weeks. So why having 5 months for campaign?
Well, to be fair, you see, what we call campaign might be relative. Because you don't see someone doing a jamboree with buses doesn't mean campaign is not on. The moment someone starts posting a sticker on a wall, campaign has started. Because outside of campaign season, that is illegal to do. The moment someone starts to go on TV and radio and have interviews and say, vote for me, campaign has started. It's not just about moving around with these big buses and all of that. That will come towards the end because it's also about maximizing your funds. You cannot be going around and doing jamboree every day for 5-6 months. No, there'll be visitations that you are doing quietly, door to door, doing all of that. But I'm in favor of having long campaigns.
Well, what's your take in part of the reforms stakeholders have suggested is that we should remove the power to appoint the INEC chairman from the president. I
100%.
remember writing analysis some months back, and people were asking me who's going to screen them, who's going to mark
The Senate can screen them.
And the Haga Africa also subscribed to this. They said they are proposing that the National Assembly, the NJC can even be the one that would
Exactly, the NJC can do that because there is no. It's just like local government elections in Nigeria. I can't even say in Lagos, in Nigeria, right? The people that work for the governor is the one that was going to run a local government election. So, what kind of result do you think you are going to get out of that? All across Labour Party states, PDP states, APC states, the governor pretty much determines who the local government chairmen are, right? So we are just fooling ourselves if we think that we are going to have a proper democratic government at that level. And it goes back to this: the president appointing the umpire that's going to be in charge of his election. It's absurd.
So do you expect without the necessary electoral reform, do you expect a fair and fair election in 2027? Or as the INEC
without electoral reform, APC took power from PDP. Without any electoral reform. I mean,
we saw the way the election went. We saw the way the election went. Even up to today, a lot of people see dispute the result of that election.
Results. See, until Nigerians until we start to take politics seriously, there will always be disputes. The question now is the actors understanding what the situation is, getting prepared for that situation, not wishing that we've seen what they are, we've seen what they do. Is Mahmoud going to come out now and say he's going to transmit results electronically and none of us will believe him? We cannot believe him again, right? So the time of looking at like South Africa, I mean, look at how beautiful South African elections were. Look at how beautiful the Ghanaian elections were, where the other person did not even wait for the election results to be called. He called and congratulated. Think about how much less tied down our courts would be if we're not having all these controversial elections that were tying judges' time up.
Time is almost up. Quickly, in a minute, what's your take on what's going on in your party? A lot of our viewers will not be happy if I don't ask you that question. We've been seeing controversy, Abore claiming to be the chairman. We saw what happened in Abia State, OT setting up a committee headed by the former Senator Namadi Usman. And OT, the case is the Supreme Court now. What's your take on
I mean, see, as far as people are handling things in a civilized fashion, there is hope. Where there is no hope is when people start fighting themselves, using chairs to beat themselves, or sending the army to go and invade the assembly and things like that. As far as people are going to court and they're handling things in a civilized manner, there is hope. It's in court now. Let's wait for the judgment. People will sit around the table and come to terms. You also must have seen the papers where Abure and the party are coming out to say that Peter Obi is their candidate for 2027, that they are endorsing him as their candidate for 2027. So you also see an attempt to send out an olive branch. At the end of the day, politics is about interest, especially internal politics like that. So everybody must be made to feel that their interests count and their interests matter. I'm certain that all of these issues you're talking about, we will sit around the table and come to an agreement and everything.
But the three major parties are engulfed in crisis. The PDP is in
Politics
crisis.
is a contact sport. It's a contact sport. The issue is the level of contact. And if it's done civilized manner.
We saw Atiku El-Rufai said 2 weeks ago that there's a plan by the ruling party to destabilize
all
the
opposition parties. Yeah.
What is your take on that?
Well, if they said it, these are very experienced politicians. I mean, you look at what Nyesom Wike is doing with PDP, you see all the controversy that they are engaged in. All of that also further takes away faith for people, for political gladiators to have in the party. So yes, there's definitely some truth to that. But we also must see the game at play and also put on our thinking caps and be ready to outmaneuver whatever plans that they have. And we also have to take it very seriously. Just the way they are taking it very seriously.
We've been seeing guilt of defection over the last few months. A lot of your supporters maybe wanted to ask you, are you planning to defect from the Labour Party? You are formerly in PDP, now in the Labour Party.
I'm in the Labour Party. My focus now is to build our structure, make a robust structure, get into as many alliances as possible, plug all the loopholes that we experienced in the last election, and come out a better, stronger candidate that will deliver Lagos to where she needs to be.
I would like to see you contest in 2027.
By God's grace, by God's grace.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Gbadebo
so much for
Rhodes-Vivour,
having
for
me.
being on the program Inside Politics today.
This is the Business Day television broadcast.